Hello and welcome to another week of Pick 3 DST, where I give you 3 defenses I like and 1 defense I'm fading for week 2 of the NFL season. I'm Eric Samulski from NBC Sports, and as always, these are not my full weekly DST rankings. If you want to check those out, you can click the link below. We'll start, as always, with my sleeper defense of the week, and it's the Houston Texans. I see them ranked outside of the top 10, sometimes outside of the top 15 in a lot of sites. I have them 10th on the week. I was intrigued by the Texans defense coming into the year. They ranked 14th in turnover rate last year, and they drafted Will Anderson with the number 1 overall pick, and they actually looked pretty good in the first week of the season. Granted, it was against a Baltimore Ravens team that lost J.K. Dobbins early in the game and was without Mark Andrews, but the Texans defense showed up and played a pretty solid game. They had 4 sacks, including 1 by Anderson. They were 6th in the NFL with a 41.9% pressure rate to go along with 2 turnovers. So I really like that in a showdown against Anthony Richardson and a Colts offense that does look turnover prone. The Colts offense wasn't really moving the ball well early on. They got down by a lot and started chucking it, and Anthony Richardson did put up a good fantasy game, but there's still some inaccuracies there. The running game with Deion Jackson and maybe Zach Moss this week is still not strong, so I think you can go with the Texans pretty confidently in a lot of leagues this week. Before we move to my solid defense of the week, make sure you comment below. Let me know if you have any questions on who to start this week, and I'll get to those as the week goes on. My solid defense of the week is the New York Giants. Yes, we're doing it. I have the Giants ranked 9th this week. I don't even really have stats to back it up because you don't really want stats from week 1. They got absolutely obliterated by the Cowboys, but I do really think it was one of those everything that could go wrong did go wrong kind of games for the Giants. They have the Cardinals in week 2, and I know the Cardinals put up a little bit of a fight against the Commanders, but this offense really is uninspiring with Josh Dobbs at quarterback. He's heavily targeting an injured and old Zach Ertz. The offense doesn't really look like it can move the ball. James Conner is solid, but he's not really getting more than what's blocked for him. And I really do think the Giants are going to come out and try to make a statement after they laid an egg in week 1. If week 1 hadn't happened, I think the Giants are probably a top 5 defense play for some people this week. So we want to react to week 1, but we don't want to overreact. And I still think the Giants are a solid play against a Cardinals team that I think will still be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. My stud defense of the week is the San Francisco 49ers. I have them first this week, and most outlets have them first, so it's pretty much a consistent play across the board. The 49ers were my number 1 defense coming into the year, so I'm going to keep them number 1 for this week. They looked really, really good against the Steelers in week 1, and I think it made people think the Steelers' offense is bad, when I think it may just be the 49ers' defense is very good. They were 2nd in the NFL with 5 sacks in week 1, and they were 3rd in the NFL with a 46.2% pressure rate, which is really, really elite. And now, I know the Rams were surprisingly good in week number 1, but the Seahawks defense they went up against is not the caliber of this 49ers defense. I think the 49ers are going to be in Matt Stafford's face. We know he doesn't have a lot of mobility. I think, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell had a great week 1. Good for them. I think they're probably going to be very popular in fantasy waiver ads this week, but they're not a receiver duo that really scares me against this 49ers defense. I think you can fire them up with extreme confidence. If you haven't yet, click below to like and subscribe to get all of our NBC Sports content during the full fantasy football season. Now, the defense I'm fading this week is the Baltimore Ravens, but I'm also fading the Denver Broncos. I'm going to say it again. I told you last week. I'm going to reiterate it here. The Broncos against the Raiders had no sacks, no turnovers. They had 1 pressure, and I still see people ranking the Broncos defense inside of the top 10. Maybe I'm going to wind up looking foolish here, but I have the Broncos 15th this week. I'm going to put them nowhere near my top 10 until they prove to me multiple times they are a fantasy-friendly defense. I do not think they are one, so even against Washington, I am not going to put the Broncos in my top 10. But back to my other fade of the week, the Baltimore Ravens. Consensus has them 6th. I have them 13th on the week. So I think they're a play in deeper leagues, but I don't really love it in shallow formats. The Ravens had an easy matchup against the Texans in week 1, and they delivered. They had 5 sacks. They were 8th in the NFL in pressure rate, but I think this is a much tougher matchup against the Bengals. I know the Bengals laid an ultimate egg in week 1 and looked terrible, but I do not expect T. Higgins to have no catches. I do not expect Joe Burrow to throw for as few yards as he did in week 1. I think the Bengals are going to come out trying to make a statement like we mentioned the Giants doing it earlier. We know how talented this team is, so I think it's going to be a tough ask for this Baltimore Ravens defense. It's a good defense. They're playable, but I really don't want to attack this Bengals offense just because of how they looked in week 1. And that's it for this week. As a reminder, click below to like and subscribe to get all of our content. Make sure you hit me up in the comments below. Ask me any start-sit questions you have for week 2. And check me out next week for another episode of Pick 3 DST. Good luck on Sunday.